Good afternoon and welcome back to the Guy Dawson Show. I have two brand new guests to the show. This is not their first TV debut, though.
It is mine.
It is yours?
First with you, Corinne.
I'm excited to have them on the show. I would like to introduce Mr. Anthony Rocchio of AMR Construction and Miss Kathy Hamilton. She's a brand new author who will be talking about her book in the next segment. First, we'd like to talk to you, Anthony.
Alrighty.
So I know you very well. We go back a long time. But the viewers out there, you know, I've personally seen you really overcome some amazing obstacles to get to where you are now with your business. And would you like to talk about, maybe giving some inspiring advice for entrepreneurs out there who are maybe coming up against their own obstacles that they're finding it hard to get past?
Absolutely. Yeah, Corinne, one of the things that I realized, you start off as a young person in life and what is it like to be an entrepreneur, and you hear so many different stories. And there are so many traits that you need, but one of the biggest ones is resiliency. It's exactly what you talked about, because life is going to knock you on your butt at times. And I think you've been there for some of those situations, and we've spoken about that. So certainly resiliency is a really important factor. Everyone, they focus on, what's the best business to get into, or what kind of education do I need? And of course that's very important, but really you have to adapt and be resilient. And sometimes it's a matter of, okay, you get knocked down and you have to really think about, okay, what's my next step? How am I going to get back up? Because really that's what it's about. It's not how many times you get knocked down. I think it's a quote from one of the MMA guys. It's, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8 times. And really that can be transferred to entrepreneurship. And good thing nobody's actually hitting us and knocking us down, although sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah.
But resiliency, and I think you can really carry that over to life in general. So people talk about, okay, what qualities, what skills do you need to be an entrepreneur? There are a lot of the same skills that you need to be just a successful person in life. Because even if you're not an entrepreneur, at a certain point in your life, you went back to school. You're getting your master's degree. So it's really about looking at what obstacles are in front of me. How do I overcome them? How do I work to my strengths, and how do I improve my weaknesses?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, how. What I find that's interesting is just when you started your company, that process really didn't start with you starting the company. It started with a lot of work before that. Yeah.
Well, I know you're referring to here in Nevada. I've lived in Nevada now for 7 years, but really my company started when I was 18 years old. And I had just graduated high school, and I literally sat down out in front of my parents' house and thought, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? What skills and abilities do I have? Unfortunately, I couldn't throw a football like Dan Marino, because that would have been my first choice NFL quarterback.
You would have made it.
So, for me, my dad was an Italian immigrant, so hard work was was bred into myself and my brothers.
Yeah.
We really didn't have a choice, okay?
Yeah.
So when you say, where did it start? I'm like, well, I was 6 and I was wheelbarrowing concrete. That's the earliest memory, not really pleasant memories.
Stacking bricks at 2 years old.
Exactly. So I would say to the listeners, to the viewers, look at your life and see, where do you have some experience with something, okay? Maybe when you were a little kid, your mom taught you how to sew. Is there a way to grow a business there?
Absolutely.
So for me, as a kid, I didn't like that fact that I had to work. I wasn't playing sports. I was out working. But as an adult, I sat back and looked realistically. Well, I had some skills. I knew how to do masonry work. I knew how to pour concrete. Maybe not most people's first choice, but I evolved from a craftsman. So someone can learn a craft. They learn to be a sewer, or they learn to be, a seamstress. Now, how do you grow that into a business?
Absolutely.
So with my journey, it was about, working really hard at a particular trade, at a particular craft. And then as I got into my late 20s and my early 30s, I realized, wait a minute, my back isn't what it used to be just 10 years ago. So at that point, you have to evolve. You have to evolve to the next step. And that's really what I consider entrepreneurship. There are people out there, individuals that have a great skill, a great trade, and they're making money at that. God bless them. And there is that learning curve to becoming an entrepreneur, where you actually have a crew of people working for you, and there's a different skill set there. So for me, it has been an evolution of how do I get to that next skill set? And I think that's where your question originated.
Yeah.
Here in Nevada, it's actually really, really challenging to get a contractor's license. You have to submit a resume, you have to have, multiple references. I had references from several engineers, and it kind of goes back to my upbringing of having trades. So these are people that I've worked with, these engineers, other contractors that I work with that said, yeah, Anthony has the skills, he has the ability to do this type of work. In addition to that, in Nevada, you have to go through various background checks.
Yes.
I had to go get fingerprinted, and they pull your credit report. So they really do look at the whole person to say, A, does this person have the ability to do the trade?
Absolutely.
For my trade, I have a General A engineering license, which means I could do underground utilities, excavation, earthwork, road, bridges, a pretty wide variety of work, but I have the experience in that work. And then they also look at, do you have the financial competency?
Oh, yeah.
And are you trustworthy? So that's why they do all these various checks. Again, it's kind of like the experience that I explained when I was a kid, working with my dad. You don't like it at the time.
Yes.
But that is the process in Nevada to get a contractor's license in Nevada. It's quite extensive. It took me about 6 months, and I've actually talked to several people that took them closer to a year to get through all the process. And it's somewhat expensive. You have to pay along the way for different fees and different application fees. But I think they do that basically to protect the consumer. So there are a lot of hoops that we have to jump through as contractors in the state. I know some homeowners are going, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of work, and that's with any trade. Whether
For sure.
Any building trade, there's a really extensive permitting process here in the state of Nevada. And I think some of my earlier, things that I had to work through kind of set me up for that. Because it can be a daunting, because I know guys who are great at the trades.
Yes.
They're a great electrician or a great plumber.
Right.
And then they're like, wait a minute, I didn't know I had to have this financial competency. I didn't know I had to take a law test. I actually had to study for and pass a law test.
Oh, yeah.
You have to know Nevada state law based on, taking deposits from people. When do you pay your subcontractor? So there's actually a law test. And I know, in particular, guys who are great tradesmen, but they just didn't have that financial or that legal competency to understand the whole picture to be a contractor in this state in particular.
That's so much work. And part of the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, Kathy, as well is, we've kind of watched and supported Anthony throughout this process. Can you tell people, can you tell the viewers out there, just kind of being an observer and a supporter of someone like Anthony, what kind of advice would you have kind of watching someone go through that process?
Wow, it really was a daunting process to watch. I was exhausted just watching him go through all of this.
Exhausted us talking about it.
I think it's important to know and recognize that these things don't just happen overnight. You don't just wake up in the morning and decide, hey, I'm going to run a really successful business. There are a lot of things that have to happen before you open the doors, before you sign your first contract, before you get your first job. And I know I have a greater appreciation of that because we watched Anthony go through this step by grueling step, and sometimes one step forward, two steps back. But he's on his way now, and with the perseverance and stick-with-itness, he's going to be a great success.
Definitely.
Thanks, Kat.
Definitely. So, Anthony, right now, the kind of work that you're focusing on is mainly, you mainly just focus on municipal work, right?
Exactly.
Just public
Infrastructure work, municipal construction.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want to thank both of you. I'll just kind of clue these guys in. We met at Toastmasters, which is a public speaking group, communication group, but it's also for personal development. And then we formed our own mastermind group where we can support each other. So really, that would be, if there's a takeaway from this that I could put out there, it's
absolutely
surround yourself with people that are going to support you. Being the environments that you want to be in.
For sure.
If you want to move towards personal development, be in an environment with people that are going to support you. And you guys did that, and hopefully I did a little bit of that. A little bit of support to both of you.
No, you have always been wonderfully supportive to me, Anthony, and Kathy has as well. And we're going to talk more about that support and someone who has been in a very supportive role in a different role with her family when we come back from the commercial break.